Magnet Academy in North Charleston, South Carolina, and today I'm doing the Veterans Project for my dual credit class. My name is Donnavan Jefferson. Today's date is April 10th, 2015. Sir, may I ask what your name was?
Stefan Boryscowicz.
And what is your date of birth?
12/3/49.
And I would like to ask you what type of service do you, or what is your branch of service?
The branch of service I primarily was in was the United States Army.
Oh, that's your Army. So, basically, were you drafted or were you enlisted?
I've done both. In 1970, I was drafted during the Vietnam War. I was a resident alien, which means I wasn't a U.S. citizen, but because I was a resident alien, I was eligible to be drafted. Served my 2 years, went back to college. 4 years later, I re-enlisted into the military.
Oh, so how come you were an alien, resident alien?
I was born in a refugee camp after World War II in Europe.
Oh, okay.
And my family and I immigrated to the United States.
So, where were you living at the time?
When I was drafted, I was living in Texas.
Oh, okay. What part of this?
Dallas, Texas.
So, okay, so that's like the main reason you joined, because of the draft? Or?
Well, no, the draft, I had no choice.
Yeah.
The draft is, they said, one of the few distinctions, they have two distinctions in the military at that time. They had the U.S. soldier and they had the RA. RA was regular Army. Those were the people that re-enlisted, or that enlisted. U.S. soldiers considered were those who Uncle Sam said, greetings, come join us.
That's it. So, why did you pick that branch of service?
First time I didn't pick. They picked it for me.
I didn't know that. I thought you could have you could put in and like you could have picked what you want.
When you're drafted,
yeah, you could pick what you want.
You don't have a choice. They put you where they want you. They put you where they want you to trade. You know, it's like, there's no choosing. They're the ones that choose for you.
All right. So like when you first went inside, like how was it?
It was an interesting situation because we went to Fort Polk, Louisiana, and it was it's kind of almost, other than my trip to the United States, about the longest trip I've ever done away from home. And arrive there, get off the bus, carrying your bags, having all these people yelling at you, and trying to get you where you need to go because you're totally confused about what to do.
Yes, sir. So was it like hard to transition from the life you had before to then?
Not really. I had been gone to school a little bit before, and I was working, and just a matter of going, this is what I got to do. My goal was to once I finished the military to become a U.S. citizen. Okay. And so I knew this was going to help me become a U.S. citizen.
Okay. And so like, did you what was your rank once you left?
When I left the first time, I was a sergeant E5, and then when I came back, when I left the second time after my retirement, I was a sergeant first class.
Oh, can you like describe the duties for each of the ranks?
Okay, in my first year, 2 years, draftee, when I got sent to Vietnam, they could not send me to anywhere else because I wasn't a citizen of the United States. If I'd gone to Europe, the German government could have drafted me into their army.
Yes, sir. And
the U.S. couldn't do anything. So they sent me to military police school instead of infantry. I was one of those few people that got sent there. Oh. And I thought, stateside duty, but they sent me to military police school, then they sent me to Vietnam. And I worked as just law enforcement. Then 2 months after that, I got over there, a special assignment came up to work with the Australian Army and go to their area of training and where they were stationed in Vietnam. So I got to spend the next 7 months with the Australian Army and going out on their patrols, I was still a military policeman, but they only needed me maybe once every 2 or 3 days because if they had problems with any Americans that came through, that was why I was there. So to keep from being bored, I went to their jungle school. And so that allowed me to go out on their military patrols.
So how was the jungle school?
The jungle school was, little sleep.
It was like kind of like a ranger thing?
Yes. very little sleep, very little food. You learn to let things crawl across you
Oh.
and not move. Because once you're over there, if you move, you tell the enemy where you're at, especially at night.
Yes,
And like I said, you learn to let things crawl across you, not scratch.
Yes, sir. So, and so you said you served in Vietnam and Persian Gulf?
Well, yes, that was the 2 wars that I was in.
So did you see any combat?
Well, in Vietnam I did.
Plenty.
You know, like I said, I went out on patrols. One of the things that we did as we were called provosts in the Australian Army, not military police.
Yes, sir.
And our first job was we were the first ones out the gate of the base camp.
Yes, sir.
And we went out to make sure the roads were cleared. No mines, no.
So how do y'all like go through that process?
Well, primarily we drove in our Jeeps, and we had an armored vehicle with us.
So like y'all just like roll over?
We just we kind of looked at the road,
Okay.
and if we saw something, you know,
Like a mound?
a mound of dirt, we'd stop, get out, look at it, make see what was going on, and just check all the stuff, the routes that we had to use, because they had to get all their supplies in.
Yes, sir.
And that was the roads we were checking.
So you tell me a couple of your most memorable experiences?
In Vietnam, one of the most interesting things was out on patrol, and we were going to a place called Vung Tau, and they had these mountains called Long Hai.
Yes, sir.
And we're going there, and all of a sudden we see choppers flying over us. And the next thing we know, the choppers let loose with their rockets.
Yes, sir.
They're hitting the enemy that's up in the mountains. And got a hold of a special forces. There was a special forces training group there, and we got familiar with them because calling for support, and they would ask us. And we found out that there was a large contingent of the North Vietnamese that were stationed in that mountain area. And so they would periodically come through. So we're driving along, and all of a sudden you hear all these helicopters above you going off. Bad things that happen, you know, you have people that we'd have to go out and do rescue missions. And while a unit would move forward, we would go out there and help secure and bring back anybody that needed to be brought back.
Yes, sir.
And worst thing that I ever had out there was an armored personnel carrier,
Yes, sir.
which they made a mistake of leaving their back door open.
Yes, sir.
Sapper threw a satchel charge inside,
Yes, sir.
and literally there wasn't large pieces of anybody inside, and we had to help try to get remains so we could identify them.
I'm sorry to hear that.
It wasn't a good thing, but it was part of the job. But, you just you're out on ambushes. You get in the missions, and I've had I'm talking to a friend of mine also on one mission, and next time we hear shots, and I don't hear him talk anymore.
Yes, sir.
I look over and I'm going, what's going on? And he's dead. And really never heard anything. Just heard shots, no moans, no groans, and it wakes you up. It makes you really see what life is all about,
Yes, sir.
and how quick everything can end.
Yes, sir.
And it's just then you have to call the family up and let them know what happened, because you just don't want them to get just a note saying, Well, what we did is we through the Australian Army, because it was small, they wanted us to personally contact somebody,
Yes, sir.
as not as the official person, but after they've been already notified, just to let them know exactly what happened, and the whole thing about we do miss him, and he was valuable to us.
Did you feel like that traumatized you in any way?
For let's just say you did not get behind me anymore.
Yes, sir.
I'm still uncomfortable having people behind me,
Yes, sir.
and because I just don't know, unless I can see what's in front of me, I'm happy. But if you're behind me and I don't know what's going on back there, it still bothers me.
Yes, sir. So basically, you were still good for society. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I said, I was still good, but it just just don't get behind it.
Yes,
You know,
sir.
I still sit against the walls if I can in a restaurant.
Yes, sir.
I just, I have to fight my feelings about that.
I have a question, like, was it frustrating trying to find an enemy that you really didn't know about?
It was frustrating finding an enemy that you didn't know about. You know, you always have the rumors about and things, but a lot of it had to do with there was no really face-to-face charges that you went to. You know, where I was at. You know, what we ran into basically was out on patrol. All of a sudden, shots are fired. You don't know from where. You don't know from who. And then all you do is just open back up. You know, because you don't see what's going on. And one of the things that it did, you know, besides, you know, it's like you're always on alert. It's just like you're always looking, checking. Like I said, you're looking out there going, okay, I'm coming around the bend. What is around there? You see a group of people standing around. You're going, okay, who are these people? Part of our job was to do supply missions to villages as public relations. We took candy. Children would come up to our vehicles. One day, all children suddenly vanished. They came to our vehicle and then left. Nope, we still had candy. Don't know what's going on, everything else. So we got out of our vehicles and looked. And 2 of them had grenades attached to the axles. Somebody had snuck in while we were standing there working with the children, tied a grenade up with a string, and once we drove off, the grenade would have gone off. And so you know, but here's the thing: you can't retaliate against the children. You can't retaliate the village because you don't know really who's doing it.
Yes, sir.
And so it was like we couldn't fire back all the time. There were cases in a humorous one. We were on a night mission for an ambush. We went to a free fire zone. Free fire zone is whereby anything moves out there, we could shoot them. And because that was considered enemy area.
Yes, sir.
Well, we're standing there, you know, in our little places, and we look out and we see a large group come by. There's only 8 of us, and they got flashlights. They're talking. We hear them talking. Some of us kind of understand some of the words. They're making a lot of noise, and we're going, well, do we call in artillery and, you know, everything else? And somebody finally said, wait a minute, let's figure out what's going on. Turns out it was a lost South Vietnamese company of trainees. They got lost and wandered into our area.
So what happened after that?
Well, we broke our ambush, snuck up on them, and so they wouldn't shoot us.
Yes, sir.
And we got them out of there because, you know, technically we could have done what we're supposed to.
Yes, sir.
You know, but there were times when, you know, we're receiving fire. You know, we were in an area that was not a free fire, so we had to ask permission to return fire.
Yes, sir.
And I'll be honest, usually the bullets were flying out, and when the permission came, it just covered us for what we were doing. We didn't wait for the permission. You know, we didn't, you know, we knew what was going on.
Yes, sir.
But by the time everything, so, and listen again, not seeing, plus not knowing who the enemy is. We found a young man that was in our barbed wire that tripped a landmine. He was the shoe shine boy for the camp. And, you know, the only thing we can figure out that he was VC, which is Viet Cong, because they had no uniforms. So again, you couldn't tell who was who, friends or, you know, foe. They could be nice talking to you during the daytime, and then at night, they're the ones shooting at you.
So I might have a question, like, was there anybody like that influenced you in any way that helped you out? Like
a lot of, you know, during the military, you know, you look to the people who had been there.
Yes, sir.
And who had been there long enough to, you know, and again, there wasn't just one person. You know, you're out with veterans, and you learn things like a lot of people don't realize. You go out on patrol, you take a full canteen. And not because you're thirsty, is because when you're walking, the water in there sloshes.
Yes, sir.
Well, when it sloshes, it makes sounds. You learn to tape every metal piece where it doesn't rattle. But you know, they don't really teach you this stuff. The guys around you teach you.
I got the experience.
Yeah, the one who experienced it. So you always look for those guys who have been there for a while.
Yes, sir. That makes sense. So I have another question.
Yes.
How do you like keep in touch with your family?
When I was in Vietnam, it was just primarily by letters. And it was just, you know, doing weekly letters. I would send them out, then they would try to find me. The letters would come back from my family because sometimes I'd be moving around. You know, I had a base camp, and so my letters there, but then I'd be gone from my base camp for 2 weeks. So then there'd be a stack of letters, I'd have to read them all, everything else. With the technology in the Persian Gulf was fabulous because we had telephones.
Yes, sir.
And we had the unit that I was in, which was a chemical unit,
Yes, sir.
had some civilians that were liaison to us to help us on new equipment. They had their cell phones.
Yes, sir.
And so I was able to, every couple of days, call my family up and just say, hey, how you doing, things like that. Fact is, I called my wife up once, and she goes, where are you at? And I told her where I was at, she called me a liar. Because the news had already reported we had crossed. But I didn't want her to know that we had crossed the border.
Yes, sir.
You know, so she, but it was just one of those things. You know, I'm going, oh, okay, yeah, you're right. You know.
So did you like get to contact her like anytime, like you?
No, there were, you know, in the Persian Gulf, you would while you're waiting, you know, maybe once a week you'd be able to go to the phone booths. AT&T was great. They set up phone call centers where you could go in there, talk for 5 minutes. You know, you'd have a long line of soldiers wanting to call home. But unfortunately, we had the civilians who would kind of let us use their phones, you know, a little bit more often.
So, all right. So we got down to the necessity of calling your parents. So like, to the necessity about you, like, did you like eat good food there? Live well?
It was, you know, it was typical Army food. You did, you know, like the old joke of the ham and eggs for breakfast. They were green in the can. In the military, there are cookbooks that came out where you can take ingredients that you get in the meals. When I first was in the military, it was sea rations. These cans, and they have little powdered cocoa and Kool-Aid and the can. So what you actually learn to make pound cake.
Real pound cake?
Real pound cake, using these different little ingredients that they give you. We used to make Ranger cookies, what we call them. You take a sugar packet, and you take a creamer packet, combine them,
Yes, sir.
burn them on the outside, and you made an instant sugar cookie.
Does it actually taste good?
It tasted good, and when you're, you know, when you had been out for, you know, thing. I guess the biggest thing, you know, the food, you know, the food's Army food and good, quick, you know, nourishing. You know, sometimes it was, you wondered what it was, but you just, you know, you hadn't eaten for 48 hours, you know.
Everything tastes good.
That's why I can put up with most everything now.
So like, did you have any, like, plenty of supplies?
Oh, yeah, that was the one thing, yeah, I never had a problem with supplies in Vietnam and everything. Well, the only supplies we didn't have was hot water, that and a flushing toilet. In the 7 months I was with the Australians, our shower was a big barrel that was outside, and the sun would warm up the water. And then you take a little sprig and you know, the water would come through. And as for a toilet, there's a hole in the ground.
Yeah.
And it was like, just you really learn to appreciate what a flush toilet is and what a real shower is.
Yes, sir.
You know, you learn that, and I think those are the things that most people miss the most. Just those two, food, you know, but just really shower and a toilet that you don't have to worry about bugs crawling.
All right. Did you like back again? Like, did you ever feel pressure or stress at any point?
Well, yeah. Well, like I said, you'd be out on patrol and everything. You don't know what's going on out there, and it's like you're doing two things. You're worried that one of your guys would make a mistake and alert the enemy. You're worried that you're going to do something. Part of the things that we used to, if you were coughing at all or sneezing, you didn't go on patrol at night. You did not go out because if you're coughing, you're gonna draw the enemy to you.
So, is there people who kind of did it on purpose?
I won't say that's true, but I won't say it didn't happen.
Oh.
Every once in a while you get a feeling going, I really don't want to go out today. You get that feeling, and then you either come up with a reason why not to, or you go out there and then you're really stressed because you're looking at everything around you, and you're going, like I said, you're getting shot at, and you got to wait to a decision to shoot back, and sometimes it's a thing you're getting shot at and you don't know from where, because all you're hearing is the bullet, going by.
So, like, have you received any wounds from that?
Unfortunately, I went through without any damage to my body.
Well, that brings us to my next question. So, did you do anything for good luck?
Well, in Vietnam, I carried a picture of my girlfriend in my helmet. Really, literally did.
Something go from full metal jacket.
Yeah, it was inside my helmet. And then when I was in the Persian Gulf, my wife's grandmother had a what do you call it? A rosary, and it passed down to the family. Well, I wore that every day. That was just something I'm protecting me, and I still got it. I don't wear it now, but I wore it every day. Even when I was walking to the shower, I had it on.
Anything can happen.
Huh?
Because anything can happen.
A lot of it kept me safe, even when bullets were flying.
Yes, sir.
Like I said, I think of that, my friend right next to me, it's like, why him, not me? That's the biggest, sometimes as a veteran, you wonder about that. Why did you survive and the guy next to you didn't?
So I want to talk about how was your interaction with the other people from the AR fame?
When I was in Vietnam, when I used to work, like I said, I worked with the Australian Army, so I got to work with the ARVN. I also worked with, there was a Special Forces base camp, and what they did is they trained the Thailand troops. They would bring them in there and train them, and got to work with them and everything else. A lot of times, the ARVN, you pushed them against the wall. Some of them just went, why are we fighting? There were many cases whereby we would supply a group with weapons and everything, and they'd be out, guarding their village or something, and the enemy would show up, and the next thing you know, all those weapons are now belong to the enemy. They would just leave, and it was the sense. A lot of the sense that I got over there was, we really don't want to fight. Just leave us alone. Let us grow our food, live our life, and we'll be fine.
Yes, sir.
And so, and the political instability over there didn't help also, because you had a great deal, the higher level. There was a lot of things that they had, privileges that the regular soldier didn't have, and they're going, why are we doing this when they're doing this? They're going on, we're fighting a war here, and they're going overseas on vacation instead of being in the country with them. So you ran into that, but then you also ran into the sort of ones that were dedicated. They knew what they were fighting for. They were fighting for their families. So it's to me, it was like any other thing. You have your good, you have your bad, you have your in between, and it's just a matter of who you ran into that day. And it became, and that was another frustration, because you didn't know. Here's this guy on your right, the group on your right. Are they going to stay when the battle starts, or are they going to run? So you're looking forward at the enemy, but you're also looking to your right and left to see if they're still there. It's unusual. So In the Gulf War, we didn't have to worry about that because it was, you know, the Brits, the French, all, you know, them and their, you know, we didn't really worry about that. It was just the local type thing because a lot of them, again, were draftees.
Yes, sir.
When you're a draftee, your mindset is not
It's the same as a person
who wants to be there.
Yeah. All right, so I have a question. All right. When y'all, I know y'all have to carry like a lot of stuff on y'all, and like I know you probably had physical and mental burdens. Can you please like elaborate on that?
You know, when you went out on a mission and you're going to be gone for 2 to 3 weeks, you got to carry everything you need because one, when you're out there, you don't want anything flying in to let anybody know where you're at.
Yes, sir.
So you know, you would plan your meals. You literally would say, how many meals do I want to eat a day? Do I just want 1? Do I want 2? Or do I want 3? Normally what would happen is everybody would go down to 1 meal a day. Because that's less you have to carry.
Yes, sir.
You know, you're carrying all your ammo. You're carrying, you know, one thing is you're not carrying that much. You're not carrying a sleeping bag. You're just carrying a blanket.
Yes, sir.
Maybe rain gear, maybe, because even with rain gear you got soaked. But you know, carrying all that ammo because you're going to be out there a while and you don't want to run out. You're carrying ammo for other people, like the machine gunners,
Yes, sir.
because they can't carry all that. You know, they already got a big weapon. They can't carry everything. And you get, you know, when you're walking through mud, walking through rivers and streams, you don't just cross it. You get in the river and you walk down it. It puts a great deal of burden on your body, and you just get so tired faster because you're not only carrying the weight, but it's like carrying another person on your back.
Yes, sir.
And it just, you know, just wears your body down, and sometimes you actually drift off.
Yes, sir.
And you're just going, I just follow the guy in front of me. I'm just that tired.
Yes, sir.
You slept for 1 hour out of the last 48.
Yes, sir.
So it really causes, you know, and then when you get back, it's like, I don't want to move. I don't want to move. I don't want to walk. I don't want to run. I don't want to do anything because I want my body to heal because you hadn't had a chance to do that.
Yes, sir. Were you like considered like a tough person, like mentally and physically?
I don't know, you know, if you know, you hear stories of, you know, these guys tough. I think it's just you adapt to your situation and everything else. You know, you look at it and go, can I change this? No. Do I got to endure it? Yeah, because if I want to live.
Yes, sir.
So I wasn't a big guy. I was a little guy. You know, it's hard to believe, but I've gained weight, but I wasn't that big back then. And you know, sometimes the backpack was just almost as much as I did.
All right. So after you got out, how was your like socialization?
When I came back from Vietnam, my girlfriend's family took me out to dinner the first night I was back. They took me to a Japanese restaurant that was within the flight path of an airport.
Yes, sir.
I ended up underneath the table.
Too many cues.
It was just, I'm going, you know, one more, you know, but then it's just, anytime I'm hearing these jets coming over,
Yes, sir.
and I'm thinking, well, something's going on, and I literally, I was just about, you know, it just took a while to just get used to being around people. Like I said, there were things that, you know, like lights, you know, going, you know, I'd be in a room that's dark, and they said, why don't you have the lights on? I'm going, oh, okay, oh yeah, there is lights. You're having to re-acclimatize yourself. Not constantly watching behind you, like I said, it's still, I'm not as bad as I used to be, but still, you're look, you're constantly looking around, you know, you know, you're not relaxing.
Yes, sir.
You know, when you're in the park, you're not relaxing. You're looking around saying, you know, what's going, you know, who could be hiding there, who could be hiding, you know. It just takes some time, and you just, you know, get your confidence back.
Yes, sir.
You know, that you start trusting.
So was it like a thing that kept you occupied? Anything that entertained you?
What I did is I went into reading more. I wasn't really a big reader there, but I went into reading more, and I used that, really that was a defense mechanism. I'm reading, so don't bother me. And doing that, I started going back into athletics, getting that energy out. Just, looking at my day and say, okay, this is starting to get to me. I just really, so I'm taking a break. And I went back to college when I got out, but every day I'd say, I'm not going to class. I just don't want to deal with it. I just want to stay home, relax, close the door, and let the world go by.
And so, how did you become a teacher?
I retired from the military and went up to Indiana to support my wife, and she was getting her sports degree in psychology. Because that's one of the things that a lot of people don't realize. If you don't have the family to support you in the military, you really are going to have a hard time, because it's terrible for the spouse. I left to go to Persian Gulf on Christmas Eve. It's like, I had no choice. That's the day we shipped out. So it's like you can't be with your family on their birthdays. Can't be on their family with the holidays, and so then they have to take over the family for you. All the stuff that you've been doing, paying the bills, then do this, I get to repair people, taking care, helping take. They suddenly have to do that all by themselves. So I decided to get out of the military. I had enough years and support her. Well, once she got her thing, we moved back down to Alabama. And I'm going, what do I need? What do I want to do? Because I just don't want to sit around. I mean, I spent my first 5 months out of the military not doing anything except taking care of my daughter. And literally I'm going, take her, and then I'm sitting around the house for 6 hours doing nothing. So I got a job. But we decided, I got a disabled vet. And as a disabled vet, I fell into the scholarship program, where the Department of the VA would pay for my college tuition, books. They would also give me money every month as living expenses. And so we said, what would be something that would be good for me based on my career? Nursing, because I used to be a combat medical person. And then we also looked at teaching, and we said, there aren't enough males in teaching. And that was one of the things we noticed. If you were in elementary school, you hardly saw a male. You saw females. And so talking to people, and they said, yeah, we need more male role models. And looked at that and said, okay, let's me become an elementary school teacher. And got approved. They paid for everything. Took all the classes I need to. Fortunately, I had prior college. So instead of having to go through 4 years, I only had to do 2 years. And so that made it a lot easier to switch careers as an old person.
So you started off elementary, then you worked your way up to...
Well, no, my degree was in elementary.
Okay.
I taught, and then my first year as a teacher was in Virginia, Ashburn, Virginia. I taught special ed for autistic children in elementary school. I'm not special ed trained, but what happened was I'd worked with them as a substitute, and a position opened and they couldn't fill it, and they called me up and asked me if I was willing to jump in. Spent that year up there, and then we said, let's put it this way: you're paying for a 2-bedroom apartment, and the rent alone is $1,500, and we're going, it's too expensive to live up in the DC area. So we looked for places to live, so we looked at Charleston. I sent down applications. Mr. Townsend was my interviewer. I came down here on a Thursday with all my furniture, no job, all my family. I came down from Virginia. All I had was an interview on a Friday. So here Thursday I come in, unload my truck. I come here on Friday. First place I interviewed, because I had other places. 10 minutes after sitting in his office, he offered me a position here as a teacher.
Yes, sir.
And I went, I'll be honest, I did not know if I could handle it.
How come?
Not as a teacher, the military side.
Oh.
Because it was like, do I really want to go into that strictness?
Yes, Yes, sir.
And because I grew up in the hippie generation. When all that protest was going on and everything. And I'm going, and when I left, once I got more contact, I went to more of a relaxed nature. I didn't know if I could really go in there. What I did is I went back and said, okay, the only way you're going to make it is you go back to your drill sergeant mode. I used to be a drill sergeant in the military.
Yes, sir.
And so taking my mind and saying, you're now going to act like a drill sergeant, use those skills and combine them with teaching, and you'll be able to survive.
Yes, sir.
It just make sure that you've got that little thing going on. And it worked, and he's kept me on for the last 14 years. And I think, one of the best things that happened was here, because I enjoy it. This place has that family atmosphere.
Yes, sir.
All the teachers, primarily get along together. We have fun together. You really start thinking of this place as a family, because next thing you know, you see all these people that left
Yes, sir.
10 years ago, and all of a sudden they're back, coming here to say hello. So there's that family type atmosphere. We're all there, to help each other.
So, what made you come into math as a teacher?
Being in a child from Europe, my parents did not speak or write English. They spoke a little. Well, they couldn't help me in English.
Yes, sir.
So it really came down to the hard subjects, which were math, very logical, very clear.
Yes, sir.
I'm good, I like science, I like social studies, but I really like math because it's just so very logical, and you can do things with math. My career in the chemical warfare branch dealt with a lot of math. So I just said, just use the natural skills that I've developed and become a math teacher. Now here at this school, I've taught English, taught social studies, I've taught science, I've taught math, I've taught 8th grade, all of those, 7th grade, all of those. Only thing in 6th grade I hadn't taught has been social studies. But Ms. Halloran comes over and talks to me because I'm old and I've lived through a lot of areas. But I've taught all those subjects while I've been here. But I enjoy math. It just, you can have so much fun with it. I mean, how many people know that 1 + 1 = 3? I know. And you say that to your 6th graders and they're going, no, they're arguing with you about that. Then you show them how, if you want to work on computers, you have to know that. So there's so much fun you could have with math.
So I would like to know, what phrase would you like to go by?
Math-wise, because I do with my kids, math money, but this is something I always did with my daughter while she was going to school. Parents want them to have, good grades and everything like that, but that's not what I told my daughter. I told her, this is life, have fun. Don't be serious, have fun. Because if you can't have fun, you're going to be stressed. She made great grades, I didn't have to worry about it, but again, I never went to her and said, you gotta have an A, you gotta have a B. Go to school, have fun. I know, I saw the look on your face, you're going, huh? Because that's the whole thing. If you can't, that's why I'm still teaching. I could retire already from teaching, have my other retirement, but as long as I'm having fun, why give it up? Why give it up?
I'd like to say thank you for this beautiful interview.
Thank you. It's fun. I haven't thought some of these things in years.